Robert Bob Bond Cole was born April 22, 1922, the youngest of 5 children. Growing up on a large farm in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, he was an adventurous child who, in addition to attending to his farm chores, also enjoyed fishing, hunting, and riding his Harley-Davidson. As a young teen and an avid reader of Popular Aviation, Bob became very interested in aviation. After graduating from high school, he worked at several civilian jobs until enlisting in the US Army Air Corp in 1942. His desire in joining the military was to become a pilot, and he initially was accepted into Aviation Cadet School. However, he did not qualify for pilot training. Not deterred, he went on to serve our country during World War II at several military bases stateside, including San Antonio, Texas, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Chico, California, and Frederick, Oklahoma. Bob became an airplane engineer mechanic and supervised 2 to 3 men in the repairs and maintenance of 2 engine trainers and medium bombers, including the B-25. He received an honorable discharge in July 1946. Upon returning home to Lexington after the war, he continued his flying interest, soloing in a Taylorcraft airplane. In 1950, he purchased and rebuilt an Aronica Champ. Bob dearly loved aviation, and it was evident from an early age that he would make aviation a lifelong commitment. In 1951, he began his career of working in the airline business at Bluegrass Airport, when he became station manager with Eastern Airlines, and he served with that company for 29 years before retiring. He returned to Bluegrass Field in 1982 to open Comair's first station, where he remained a station manager until 1987. With Bob's knowledge of aviation and his ability to meet and surround himself with others having aviation interests, he and a group of 11 other dedicated aviation enthusiasts established the Kentucky Aviation Round Table in the late 1970s. His contributions to this organization included planning meetings and programs, inviting speakers with civilian and military backgrounds. He subsequently was very involved in the early stages of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. Aviation and the museum were special to Bob. He would often speak admiringly of the 50 combined years that he spent at Bluegrass Field between the airport and the museum. He was instrumental in the museum's acquisition of the McDonald Douglas A-4 Skyhawk. After obtaining this historic military aircraft, Bob coordinated plans with the U.S. Navy to refinish the plane to the Navy Blue Angel's stunning colors and magnificent condition. It's not so much what Bob did for others, but what others became or eventually achieved in aviation as a result of his influence in their lives. Bob never drew attention to himself. He was highly respected by many for his genuine interest and guidance toward the careers of others in the aviation industry, from pilots to airline managers. One such example of another Hall of Fame inductee, Jim Graybill. Jim credits Bob Cole for assisting him in getting an interview with Eastern Airlines, where Jim was eventually hired and flew every diverse aircraft imaginable in his 30-year distinguished career. Bob also influenced Jim later when he too eventually became a docent for many years for the Aviation Museum following retirement. Even up to the final weeks of his life in his early 90s, Bob regularly volunteered as a docent and met up with fellow volunteers who all became his friend. He was also a dedicated husband. He and his wife, Jenna, who passed before Bob, had been married for 55 years. They had 3 children, Ronald Hudson, Robert B., Bob Cole II, and Julie A. Wilson. At the time of his passing, he had 6 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren that he adored with all his heart. His positive and professional example as a spokesman and docent at the museum became the model for others to embrace in regards to the hospitality he extended to each and every visitor coming into our building. He consistently demonstrated an ardent passion for the visitor's experience, gladly sharing his knowledge and expertise about the various exhibits, displays, and aircraft. Early on, he realized the importance of offering the museum's visitors a consistent experience. To that end, he went on to develop the museum's first docent training manual. Another task that Bob truly loved was keeping track of the museum's guest book. With name and location recorded as visitors would enter, Bob was always on top of the number of states and countries that were represented. From his earliest involvement, Bob has been a devoted supporter of the Aviation Museum, having served in many capacities over the years. He served on various committees, exhibits, air shows, and the museum's board of trustees, and of course, in serving as a volunteer at the museum until the final week of his life. His exemplary support of aviation has spanned a remarkable 70 years, all the while providing a steadfast and genuine love for aviation's rich legacy. It is therefore fitting that Robert Bob Bond Cole be enshrined into the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.